All right, we will call the November 13th, 2024 meeting of the Fire Station Building Committee to order. We are meeting in room 120 of Town Hall. It's also available by Zoom. I will do roll call attendance because we do have one member who is remote. Aaron Hunt.
Here.
Todd Lindmark here. Justin Casanova Davis here. Justin Yanosek here. Chris Baker here. Kevin Champagne here. First agenda item is public comment. Donna?
Donna Jones, I was wondering if there's electricity out near the street for a possible future sign.
Well, there is a monument sign that's going to be installed. Part of the project.
Yeah, it says fire station.
Does?
Yeah, it's going to be at the entrance that they're working on now to the public parking.
What I was thinking of is the town notice sign. When we want to send a message to the residents so that it changes, you know, like we have those trailers that move around. Before you came on, there was a request from the building commissioner to have a sign placed in public property that could help notice. Vote early, vote this day, you know, whatever the message is, that it would change. And the town administrator and the building inspector said, hey, the fire station would be a good place for it. On Main Street, it's out of the street. They brought it to town meeting and residents said, what's it gonna look like? You know, we want to know what it looks like before we approve the money for it. So I didn't know if having something electric at the fire station visible to the drivers is an option.
To consider it.
Thank you.
Did that not come up during design?
I mentioned it.
No, it did. Blythe brought it to the planning board and they said.
They said that.
Yeah.
At the time, we did not have approval for lit signs.
Okay.
So I don't know if you can.
So
again.
let me look at the drawings and see if we have a conduit running out there. So another way you can do it though, because those signs do work wirelessly now.
Okay.
So, having done one that was about a quarter of a mile away from the building, they decided to have a battery pack and it's basically like a little cell tower thingy connection. So it's like having a smartphone down at your sign. And so that is an option if we don't have conduit going out there, but they are still digging, so. Just trying to think, how would we get from the electric room out there, because some of the work is done in the back of the building. So,
Thank you for considering it.
yeah, and you know, you might look into, so there is the company doing the sign might be able to like offer solutions of getting it out there without running conduit. So sometimes when you pull into a college campus or you pull into a stadium and have a sign way out there and the building is way down there, they're not actually connected by wire. Or if they have power, somehow it's coming off like a light pole near it or something along those lines.
You're talking a two-sided digital display.
What I was thinking.
We have a couple projects in Norton that are looking at that. They are powered electrically and they do have data run to them, but they're running around $35,000.
The Grantham Center and their secondary fire station way out on the edge of town. They have a two-sided electric thing, 2 or 3 lines that changes. I stood near it and there's a hum, a constant hum. I looked at other signs that you have the plexiglass in front of, and they tend to fade. You have to put the physical letters up.
Yeah,
The last time it was discussed, it went to planning boards. They said, no, I can follow
yeah,
up and just.
I would say first step, we should just bring it up to the planning board, see if it's worthwhile. So, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, we'll move to the OPM report. Steve, it's all yours.
1 second. So thank you. I'll go over, we have as far as progress to date. So, our progress since our last, committee meeting, which was on October 9th, punch list work on the new building has continued by the contractors. Demolition of the fire station living quarters is complete. Phase 2 work has started. They have been, working on grading, drainage, site electric. They're getting the, if you've noticed the large, basin number 1 at the front of the building. They have, poured the concrete aprons in front of FA door number 4 and number 5. They still have number 6 left to go. They were putting in curbing today. That will be adjacent to that final section of the FA. We've had items like the kitchenwares, tasks, chairs, the genie lift, and the dining table were all delivered in the last couple of weeks. Matter of fact, the genie lift came today. And Matt was there to make sure it was okay, got the training on it.
In one piece.
Okay.
In one piece.
Yes. Again, just some brief photo documentation. October 30th, just showing from the second floor, the excavation for basin number 1. The 31st, basin number 1, and prepping for the apron of the building. The beginning of November on the 1st, catch basin installation, light pole installation. Again, everything that's been worked on over there besides punch list has been site work. On the 5th, they poured apron for bay number 4 to coincide with the other 3 bay doors. That's the final product. On the 12th, they were putting in the outfall control station that hooks to one of the existing drain manholes. The 12th, we had set up the rebar for the apron at bay number 5. And then just a photo of them pouring it. And last week we got the dining room table. So schedule look ahead for the contractor, completing the punch list, any outstanding change order work, completing the O&Ms as built in the warranty submissions. Continue the phase 2 site work, earthwork basins, drainage, the parking lot, sidewalks, the EV chargers, the memorial paver hardscape area, and the monument sign. They're going to start landscaping on the west side, which is the church side, at the end of this week. Get some of the green belt in on that side and work their way around the back of the building. Right now, it looks like the north and the east side landscaping, which is the front and the opposite side of the building, will likely not happen until the spring. They've been trying hard to get as much done as possible, but they're really just running out of planting season at this point. We also have to finish up the audio visual, which is an owner side contract. And we've got a couple more pieces of FF&E that need to be purchased and delivered, which is a shop's container and a mailbox for the vestibule.
So to answer some more comments about the site, we already have a pool box, a data conduit run out there, so you can run future data wire, and we already have power out there at the pool box, right at the sign.
Good.
Somebody was thinking forward.
So other issues right now, Castagna through the month of September is 94.22% with their contract based on the requisitions. Norwood staffing change. Let on give the news.
Yeah, so I'm leaving Doran Whittier to move on, and I think so Tim Mullen has been running the project. From a project architect perspective, the whole project will remain on the project, see it sorted out. And he's got all the support of the office that's been around working with the rest of the team. But I just wanted to say that, you know, I think you all did an incredible job. And this is one of the best committees that I know I worked with. I know that Dora Whittier appreciates all the decisions you made. I mean, to take a fire station project and turn it into the first Massachusetts zero net energy ready fire station with all the energy efficiencies that go along with it, and to build it on the same site and to do it in such a cost-effective way. It's really impressive, and it takes guts, and I think you guys have the guts to do it.
Sure, at the right time.
Yeah. And so, you know, I think that would have been a really great speech, but, you know, I do think that, you know, it's been a privilege actually to work on a project like this. So, thank you.
And thank you. Yeah, feeling
Thank you for your help.
mutual run. It's been great to work with. I think this was not an easy project, especially considering kind of the whole history of it. So certainly the success of it is definitely in part to you and Steve.
Continuing on, planning board extension, because the site plan completion, will not be until the spring, we, kind of get in touch with Rich and request a site completion extension. I put in May 30th. I want to really sort of confirm that with the contractor to make sure we're not having to do another extension, but, we'll catch up with planning on that. As Ron said, the Mass Save incentive, we got the approval on the path one. We're finalizing some of the documentation. That all starts essentially with their a review period for the building operations as far as the 1st of January. But you know, we're at $112,200 incentive, so I think that's pretty good. Again, for having you know, fire station buildings with, they really didn't have a program for. They said in EUI that almost seemed impossible, and with Ron and his team's design, we were able to make it and come in under. We were 32.15 or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's a feather in your cap and Dora Whittier's, I think. Is that enough? Now you've set the bar.
Yeah, we tried to set it at an EUI of 40, but they said 35. But yeah, and you know, it's been a great learning experience when you learn from all the people involved in that, you know, to really make a change. And I think the whole Dora Whittier, GGD, the green engineer was working for Eversource. You know, I think everybody worked pretty hard to get that done, you know.
And that'll be working for you.
Yeah.
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 And there's a rebate on that too.
So I was gonna ask some, yeah, so I mean, first of all, 112,000 is great. I mean, that's not an insignificant amount of money. But the amount, that doesn't include the amount that we potentially get after a year of operation, right? That's what, so we're bringing the green engineer on to kind of oversee the
So you
operation.
go through the 1 year period and then you get that.
Additional.
I think it's $1.50 or $1.25. And you know, you did the project like at the perfect time because they had, you know, they had kind of these incentives. They didn't have it for public safety, but what they did have was you get this much back per square foot. And then at your project, they were making all these adjustments. So we actually did sign 3 contracts with them. It was like the first one. So Justin had some work to do, and then we had to sign the second one, and then we had to sign the third one. Because now they give you even money back if you use certain types of equipment, which we used. And it just so happened that we had used those types of equipment. You know, and if we had a crystal ball and you were doing the next one, you would do geothermal because of the IRA, you know, impacts that weren't around when we started this job. So, you know, the good news is incentives are coming, and the good news is, you know, everybody in the Commonwealth can look at Norfolk and say, well, they did it, you know, so.
Great. We've had 3 different contracts. We've also had at least 3 different point of contracts with.
Yes. Yep. Great.
But that's fine. They've been very helpful. Getting into review of, like we reviewed last meeting, the fire department's additional work items, we have. We do have some updates on that. Not everything has come in yet. Some of it's in design, some of it's still in pricing. But just sort of giving the update, the door frame modifications for the SCBA washer. That proposal request is issued and is right now is out for pricing. We did get a price on the Sharps cabinet for the vestibule, which is approximately 2357.54. And I say approximately because there's shipping charges for these things that we're trying to get a written quote on. Mailbox is about $450, also trying to get the written quote on that. The chief eliminated the fourth item.
So I'm sorry, so are these are a little different than what you sent out or that was attached to the. I mean, it's not a big difference, but like the Sharps cabinet was 2262.54 plus. So maybe you just added.
I added a lift gate. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. The a replacement of the truck fill discharge adapter, that PR just came out and that's issued for pricing. So I updated that from what I sent out earlier. Bollard cupboards are being priced. The additional security cameras, that's in design. We've had some further discussions on how we're going to actually accomplish that. I think the direction was clear as of today, how we're going to go about covering that. At one time, Chief was thinking about putting a camera on one of the light poles, but there's an issue with that, with having the data and the electrical power for the light pole in the same pole. So we have an alternate location for that, and he was fine with it. As he just wants the function. It doesn't matter where we would put it. Lowering of the countertops, we had a price on that. One thing that occurred today is the contractor came in and actually lowered the countertops unannounced. So it is.
We can take it off the list.
It is work that was extra him, but they did a couple things today that we were not expecting. But that was just a little over $2,000 for that, and that was essentially the countertops were put in at a stool height, and they needed to be at a desk height. Item 9 was crossed off by the chief. Item 10 is some civil work on the catch basin on the east property. That is also in design with niche engineering. We did have a further discussion on that today, also with a couple of different options we want niche to explore. I don't know if you have any update from.
Yeah, just so 7 and 10, there may be an additional design fee just because we got to go back to GGD and see what we need to do to add those new cameras.
Correct.
And then the other one, the catch basin on the existing east property line. We came up with a solution today that may mean no additional cost in terms of design fee, but that's something we got to go back to niche, our civil engineer, and just see what they can do. Because if it's something that we can just fill that catch basin with sand and abandon it in place, and then have the water kind of sheet off. In other words, it just rolls across, and we change the grades, so it goes into the detention basin that's along that east property line. Then that's just a sketch. Like there's no engineering involved in that. But if we have to put in drop manholes and things like that to get it past the duct bank, then there'll be some engineering involved in it. So we'll go back and see what the story is with that.
So the next item is the coax cable installation. This is something that Ton came up with as far as getting cable TV into the dorm rooms for free, essentially. But there is some cabling that needs to be done, and it was not something that he could handle. So essentially, this is running in some cable from the roof down to the IDF room and then over to the MDF room. And that's $3,363.01.
That says cable TV, but it's just broadcast, right? It's from an actual roof antenna. It's not-
Yeah, you know what, I was supposed to cross out the Comcast has nothing to do with it. Yeah. Yeah, my error on that. He pointed that out to me before too. Item 12 is just to relocate a light switch in the file room that's being covered by a file cabinet. I got a little feedback today that it may not be that big of an issue to the fire department, but right now we still have it on the list. Item 13, installing existing station monitors on the wall of the war room and the admin for security. Right now, that's in sort of in the owner's court on that. We haven't put out any kind of request for pricing on it. 14, 15, and 16 are all right now future items. Activating the top plug of the duplex outlets in the day room because they're on a switch. Adding an outlet on the AV box and an HDMI splitter. We don't have prices on those items, and I think at this point they just may be future items. 17 murals for the blank spaces inside the station. There's a meeting set up for either the 4th or the 11th with the signage company to come in and take a look at the historical and somewhat current photos that the fire department is choosing. And we'll get a price from them as far as blowing those up onto murals to go on the blank areas of a lot of the walls inside the building. So that's sort of design and pricing. Item 18, wire management system for the training room desks. That was something that they were going to really review once they've had some training sessions in the training room, which they have been having. They had some local fire personnel in for some training today. I believe last week they were having some training. We haven't heard anything that has been a problem, but we're keeping it on the list. 19, a picnic table or tables for the dining deck. The fire department was looking into pricing that. Item 20, there was request for 3 additional stool height chairs for the kitchen counter. We did get a price for that from Hertz Furniture, who was our furniture supplier, of $2,158.47. Did check back in on because their price has been in for a while. They're still holding it for at least another couple of weeks. I don't know if we'll have a decision tonight or not whether to go forward. But they're holding the price at least for another 15 days. Item 21 was taken off the list by the fire department. And item 22, which it had, the fire department was looking to purchase some decals of the fire department emblem for the front of the podium, and then where we have the glass side lights at the stair lobby, downstairs and upstairs, almost like when no one walks into them. And that was about $700. So we also had for tonight. There was a hasn't been issued yet, but a change trying to put together change order number 6 for a number of different things. Some of which have been completed, some which have not. And I can go through those. And we may have talked about some of them in the past, but I'll recap them again. PCO 73 was for additional signage for the temp entry and for the building. Temp entry signage is on our west entrance. We had to have a sandwich board and some signage to make sure that people knew where the temporary entrance was until the final entrance is completed. And then there was some fall protection signage that was needed up on the second floor mechanical room, where we have the doors that open up onto the app bay. And that was $1,059.30. And that the PCO 74 for some fire department a while back had requested some tie down rings to be installed in the app bay, in the wall under the training mezzanine. So when they do ladder training, they can secure the bottom of the ladder so it doesn't slip out on the epoxy floor. So we got a price on that, which was $2,005.70. That work has not been done. PCO 76R, the mech call box that was at the original station entry and will ultimately be moved to the new station entry, had to go to the temp location during phase 2. So that was $385.22. That work is complete. PCO 77, the electrical inspector required some VFCI outlet on the roof when he was doing his final inspection for occupancy. That work was done, $686.91. Electrical inspector also required GFCI breakers, a 50 amp 3-phase shunt trip breaker for the SCBA washer machine, and another 30 amp 2-pole GFCI to comply with the new 2023 code. And that work was done. It's $1,611.20. PCO 79. This is the electric water heater. It was a wiring revision for it. The wiring had to be changed from what was installed as a 40 amp 2-pole circuit to a 40 amp 3-pole circuit. So again, in order to get our inspection, we had the electrician do that. That was $4,246.35. PCO 81, that is the antenna cabling, which we mentioned before. That work has not been done. It's $3,363.01. PCO 82, which was moving the light switch in the fire room, it was $442.70. That has not been done. PCO 84, lowering the countertops, which I just mentioned, they came in and did it today. That was $2,003.82. And then recently we got a $600 credit from the electrical contractor for the town keeping their fire alarm monitoring with the company that they use now. And in his contract, he owned the 1-year monitoring. And that was waived to stay with your current firm. And so he provided a credit on what he owned. And then PCO 87, also the electrical contractor had certain light fixtures that were eligible for a mass save rebate. And they submitted that to mass save, and we ultimately got a $2,616.30 credit on some light fixtures. So
And then the good news with that is the mass save person they called doesn't talk to the mass save person that is giving you $112,000. So you got both.
Good.
I think one was a rebate and one's an incentive, so I'm separated.
That's right. Separating the two.
Either way, we get all the money.
So, I mean, this is a change order that we're presenting. It can be modified if we want to take and hold up on the cabling and the light switch and the tie down rings. If you want to have more conversation with the FDA, I know Mike is here.
Let's have that conversation. Sorry, you're done.
Yep.
I guess just a process conversation, right? Last time we talked, we had the list that we just reviewed that said we were gonna get all the prices and then make some decisions. And so I'm seeing some of those items on this list. Glad you just clarified that we can
Yeah.
take them off
Yeah.
if need be. I mean, I'd still like to see the entire list. Item like the PCO number 74, the tie down, like, why is that one not in the other list? Why is? like, That's a request that, so, I remember the conversation about, I'm sorry, I'm gonna just try and provide some context where my head is. The idea, the conversation we had around the last list was there's a whole bunch of stuff that we thought we might need to do just to fix up the building, because now that it's being used, it's like, it's clear that there's a couple of things here and a couple of things there, right? PCO 74 to me seems like it's another thing, it's one of those things there that we should be reviewing with the entire list, right? So, I mean, was some decision made that this was important enough that it had to be done? Or? did
No,
it-
I agree with you, but that request came out much earlier than the recent list, and we just omitted it from the list. You know, it was, we're not.
It should have been a change order a long time ago, because, you know.
But the work isn't done, you said,
But
right?
it's not. No. So we can,
So which,
hold on.
so which one of the ones in change order 6 have been done already?
So 73. 76R. 77, 78, 79. 84. 6 and 87 credits.
So let's keep going with that, right? So why is RFI 205 a cost to the owner and not a contingency item?
Well, it is being paid for under contingency.
Why isn't it a construction contingency? What was the RFI? Why did we change the wiring?
The wire, the plumbing contractor brought up that there was an issue with the wiring, with the circuiting. The electrical engineer realized that there was an error in how he had it being fed and made the change. Work had been done, so they had to redo work.
Work that was coordinated by the contractor.
Well, the contractor installed what was on the drawings, but it was incorrect. So the engineer made the change, and they made the change in the field.
All right. And then I guess just again, in terms of the process, like PCO 84, again, the conversation was we were gonna have a conversation about whether this work was to be done or not.
Mhm.
The contractor went and did this. I'm assuming that's at their own risk, because if we vote on this list and we decide not to lower the countertop, then he's out $2,000.
Theoretically correct.
I'm done being difficult.
What's that?
For
I'm
now.
done being difficult for tonight, for this conversation.
Well,
Don't
say tonight.
Okay.
So, yeah, we have voting on PCO numbers. So we have voting on PCO as an action. So it's PCO 6 is the only one we're voting on. Is that right?
Change order 6, but we can modify it
So, right.
from what's listed here.
So do we want to talk about any of these items, from the chief's list tonight, or just push those off until we have numbers for everything? Actually, why don't I back up? Before we even talk about this list, can we just go through the contingency, the remaining contingency?
Yes.
I think that was on your next slide.
Yeah, let me, my slides a little out of order. Okay, I just wanted to just continue with the PCO update just for a second, just to give you some items that are still under review,
Mhm.
just so that we know. Right now, if we were to approve change order 6 as I presented it, we're less than 1% on change orders for the entire project. I think that's also another good point on this project, that we're not up in the 5 and 6% on change orders. There are a couple others that are under review. I'm just letting you know that they're there. There was a request for a PCO that came in for an added collar cover that we're actually reviewing and we may reject. The chief and the fire department had also asked for hose rack and a rolling ladder for the app bay. That price came in at $21,193. It's just not equipment that can be delivered and put off the end of a truck. It has to be assembled. I don't have it on this change order for approval at this point because we've asked for some additional information. The subcontractor that would be supplying it didn't provide a decent breakdown. I want to make sure that his labor and his overhead profits are correct. So it probably will, that may go down, or it certainly won't go any higher than that. PCO 83 was a relocation of 2 whiteboards. This is another one where the contractor came in, same day, same subcontractor, and did this work today. The 2 whiteboards legitimately had to be moved. One was on the wall where the chief is adding a 3rd screen in his office. The other one was located in the admin section above the desk, and it was out of reach that anybody could utilize at the admin desk. So fire department decided to put it in 2 different locations. Again, I had this on obviously on a PCO review, but the subcontractor came in and did it today. And then there's another PCO out there for changing outlet colors. And Ron, remind me of that. Was that a code thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have receptacles in the wall that may need to have colors changed.
Why?
So in other words, you know where they're plugged in, so. This, so. In other words, what's connected to the generator, what's not connected to the generator, when you go to plug these things in, you know whether or not it's something that's gonna kick on or not kick on. And so the way you do that is with the color of the device or the color of the cover plate. Or you gotta put labels up that big that say panic button. So in order to not to go around sticking labels on the walls, the decision is let's do the cover plates.
Who's saying we have to do this?
This is a code requirement?
I can check back if this is coming from Peter or if it's coming from the chief.
Why are these items on the PCO list and not on the we need to fix it up list? Or we want to fix it up if it's approved list?
I think that's what Ron is saying. He has to figure out if this came from.
Yeah, it was something that happened a while back. We knew it wasn't very, I mean, it was $1,000, so we kind of figured.
That's the outlet colors though, right? I mean, all 4, these kind of seem like these aren't code requirements. These are now that the building's being used, it's things like we can change if we want to. Right, so why aren't they on the?
So the relocation of the 2 whiteboards, so this is basically what this comes down to is, when you move into a space, so in other words, we had a whiteboard on a wall. And the decision was, we're gonna take an existing monitor, rather than get rid of it. We're gonna bring that monitor into the administration area or into the chief's office or into somebody else's office. But we already have a marker board there, so why don't we take the marker board, put it somewhere else, so we can put the monitor there. So I think the costs associated with these things are pretty much fine tuning the documents after the fact, instead of kind of realizing that, hey, we got some stuff in here that we can move into the station, take advantage of. We prefer to put it here. There's a marker board in the way. How do we move it? Same thing with the outlets. You walk around the building and you're
So
like,
we never carried a line item for fixing the building after we're done with it.
we did. It's the construction contingency.
Well, that just happens to be there, so that's what we're using it for. Right, but my point is at some point, somebody's gonna say to us, we're now up to what, $60,000-$70,000 of things that we decided to change at the end just because we have extra money. Maybe somebody will decide that $70,000 is better in the town's pocket than changing outlet colors.
I think some of it has to do with a little bit of like growing pains. we're in the building now, we're seeing where something could be better for our function if we do this. Where we didn't plan on that.
I understood, and I'm just, if this was a different project and the town wasn't involved, then who would be doing this stuff? The owner would be doing it after they take occupancy of the building. Right, so at what point does this list become the fire department's concern and not this project's concern? And every week, every month we meet, this list grows. When's it end?
I definitely agree with that.
I
There
agree.
absolutely has to be
I agree.
no more things.
Yeah.
Enough is enough.
I agree.
I tell you right now, if we vote on this, I'd be a hard no on everything on that list. It's too much for no good reason. And if the subcontractors are doing work before they're approved, we shouldn't bear that cost. That's on them. So either wait for us to say yes, or don't charge us for it. I don't understand how if an engineer does an improper thing on a drawing, that becomes our responsibility either. So unless the code
So I-
changed
I can-
since the
I can
drawings were
respond to
done,
that.
I don't see why that's our responsibility.
So-
That's something that should have been approved and caught much beforehand.
So. I understand your position and I totally get it. And how we typically deal with these things, because it's just a fact of construction. The drawings are not perfect. If the drawings were perfect, and I mean, Aaron, you can attest to this, right? The drawings are never perfect. They can't be perfect because we're not perfect. The construction, when they're out there building things, they're not perfect either. So they're gonna make mistakes. Things are gonna happen. Whether we can catch these things in time, it's all a matter of timing, right? It's like, what's the sequence going on? What's taking place at the same time? When do we catch this and how do we catch this? So we do our best to put together the best set of documents that we can, which is actually reflective in the amount of change orders that you've put together. We've said on a project like this, we would typically carry 5% for change orders. I think the change order percentage is less than 1. So we're less than 1%. So, I mean, if I was sitting here and we were at 7.5%, you'd say, guys, you didn't hold up your end of the bargain when it comes to, you know, best practices and your responsibilities. But at less than 1%, I think, yeah, there are some things. And when a contractor comes back sort of at the end of the job, because this is what happens, and things are installed, and it's like, well, this isn't working. Why isn't this working? Oh, you know, damn it, we didn't have this thing shown exactly right, so we have to make this change. That's why it happens at the end of the job, because now everything's being turned on. Now everything's being lit up. Everything's kind of being started up for the first time. We have a commissioning agent now who's on the site saying, you know, something's not talking to something else. So I get it. Like, I understand the frustration. And I think to answer your question about like, what's the difference between doing this now at the end of the job because we have money? There are things that we did throughout the job, at the beginning of the job, to say, you know, let's put this off, like the future cameras, for instance, right? We could have easily said, hey, we're going to, I guess how we would get that in there is we're just gonna put cameras wherever we, you know, so you would have paid for it more or less. And then the benefit of doing it now, quite frankly, as opposed to doing it later after everybody leaves, is the contractors in there doing it. So this is kind of a list of, this is
The door
kind of
needs
a,
to be unlocked for the public to be able to get in. Not just open for this one person.
yeah, so this is the kind, you know, it's not necessarily, and I can tell you that there's nobody, especially the chief, who's sitting there saying, hey, we've got some extra money, let's do these things. You can see he's crossing things off the list, like his guys are coming, his team is coming and saying, can we do this, can we do that, can we do this? If we had a crystal ball, we would have asked for these things to be done this way to begin with. So you're right, I mean, this is up to you, you can decide, yep, we're gonna just take care of this now and just never have to hear about it in the future. Or we don't have to do it now, and if it comes up later on in the future, you know, maybe it's done, maybe it's not done through the fire station budget. But it's still, you know, a budget allocated by the town, so that's the thinking behind this, and it's not, you know, I wouldn't. I mean, I don't know if this is gonna sound self-serving, but I wouldn't say it's anybody's to blame for it, it's just a matter of, it's the nature of construction. I think everybody, the contractor, Steve's leadership, you know, you all making good decisions at the beginning of this job. That's what led to, you know, less than 1% change orders, where we are now with the money. And it's just a decision of, do we finish everything and be done? Or do we put some things aside that the station would like to do and do it later under the fire station budget as opposed to the construction budget?
Well, then the advantage of doing it now, which is, you know, you've got the contractor still there. That those are the experts on installing things. You have the general contractor there to pull in a subcontractor that does that work. And if, you know, in the case of the wiring, you really need the electrician to do that work because it's under his permit and it's part of his warranty also. I mean, a whiteboard can be moved by anybody, but you know, some of these other things are more specific to especially subcontractors. So, and we're slowly running out of time with them being on the site because they're moving to finish up.
Yeah, I think the issue is that, I think we need the list to be complete with all the numbers on it. And we'll talk about it as a committee, ideally with the chief here and go through
Mhm.
all those items. So my personal opinion, anybody else feels this. Change order number 6 that we vote on tonight should be reduced down to the items that were requested by, is either a code requirement or something that, defect on the drawings or defect by the contractor or a request by the town, not necessarily anything from this list.
So if I was,
So we can do that.
Yeah, I mean, if we're just gonna scroll through your slide.
Yeah, it's very easy
So
to
all
do that,
four
right?
of these, all 4 of these go on the to be reviewed when we know all the prices.
yeah, no, I agreed. I'm not looking for,
So,
so if we go back to this one, we're talking 73,
7, right, yes,
74, excuse me, not 74, 76R.
Yeah.
77, 78, 79,
and
uh,
86 and 87.
86 and 87.
And then 84 and 83 is, they need to go on the list.
So
Previous pay.
So 73, 74, and 76. So 73 and 76 are definitely things that, had this been thought through at the beginning of the job in terms of how exactly, because we had the temporary entrance set up, we had all those things set up. This is the result of people from the community just walking in the station. I think what we didn't know, or at the time, or assumed at the time, that people would just walk in, not knock. But that actually kind of makes sense, right? Because people don't normally walk up to a public building and knock unless the door's locked, you ring the bell. And so the issue with the fire station is there's nobody at the front door, kind of like what you just saw here. So when somebody comes and knocks on the door, nobody can hear them. They're upstairs, in the station. So we had to get the additional signage to let people know what to do when they arrive. We had to get the call box so that actually dispatch can answer the bell just like they would when it's completely set up. So all we did was take what we're going to put in the main lobby and move it over there, but the electrician's involved and other people involved, so that's why it costs some money. So those 2 things. And then the tie down ladder in the bay. Again, I think like when we had our user group meetings, way back when at the beginning, if somebody would have said, well, we not only want to train on the mezzanine, we want to train underneath the mezzanine, we would have put those in. And then the GFI outlets, that's per the electrical inspector. To be quite honest with you, I don't know if it's a code issue or if it's just a electrical inspector request. But I can tell you that there's been a lot of actually looking at the ground fault, that is a code, it's the new code.
Yeah, so
So
the 2023 code.
That's the code change that the electrical inspector requested.
Yep.
The antenna,
code changes doesn't apply to the project, but permit.
well, according to Peter, it does, and,
Not to the paper.
yeah, and so then,
It's 2 items.
yeah, so then the other one is the, where it was. The EWH wiring, per the RFI, that's a design thing. So that again, it's a question that, should they have asked it sooner in the project? Probably, but as we're getting done towards the end of the job here and they're firing things up, they ask a question, so it's a document related item. The antenna for free TV, that's an owner request. To relocate the light switch in the file room. I'd say that's document related. You know, we showed a wall switch on the wall and we also showed a file cabinet in front of it. When the electrician goes in there and puts the outlet in, he's not looking at the furniture plans. He's looking at like putting an outlet. And so, yeah, I'd say that's document related.
But that one's in.
Yeah, we're also, could also move the furniture. I think we're good on this one, right? So we're saying PCO 6 is 73, 76, 77, and 79. And so 73, 76, 77, 78, and 79,
And 86 and 87.
and 86, and 87.
And that can be issued.
I was
At least
gonna-
with the work that they've done, they can get paid for them.
I don't even know if we need to vote on that.
So-
Right, because I think we have probably below the amount that we.
I mean, if all of them came to 12,000, so we're definitely below. I mean, the credits help.
But lowering the counter, like I'm just gonna throw a pitch in here for lowering the counter. The counter was at a certain height, which was not handicap compliant if you look at the staff room. So the space that's using, we had a counter in there. And, well, I shouldn't say it's not handicap compliant. It's handicap basically is a range, right? The tallest you can have the counter is 34 inches, the shortest or the lowest you can have the counter is 29 inches. Because you need to have 27 inches of knee space underneath. That's what the code says. And so the chairs that the chief bought to save money, to not buy them through the furniture procurement, but to actually go off and buy them for a lesser amount. That chair works with a counter height of this high, not 34 inches. So if this was up,
That's your desk height.
right, so the 4 extra inches, it does make a difference, right? So my hands are about 4 inches higher. And so from that end, you know, again, I'd say it's document related and it's one of those things where the chief went out to try to save some money, which he did by buying all those fast chairs in bulk, from a big box store. Instead of going through the procurement, you know, the project. So we saved a little bit of money, but that means we have to drop the counter.
How much do we save if you have
You
2,000?
saved $2,000.
Yeah.
And
We saved
why-
a lot more than $2,000 buying that.
We
furniture.
Why
got,
was
we
that
got the
brought
chairs
down?
for about
At
100.
this point, it's principle. We
Yeah.
can't keep adding to this list. This is an item that we didn't vote on. It's added to the list. It's not code required. It's there. I think we need to draw a line in the sand and say, unless it's code required, I don't want to see anything going on this list. We need to understand what the overall adds are, and then we'll decide whether we're gonna do them or not.
And the work shouldn't be done before we're approving it.
Right, and the
Yeah,
contractor came in and just did it, and we, like, nobody had said, just come do it, like, that's.
Yeah, I
To
think
your
that
point.
to a degree, there is some principle of that. I think that. Look, we may all say, sure, PCO 84 makes sense. Let's do it. But I don't think we want to do it tonight just because it's already done.
Not setting that precedent.
I think the biggest thing is saying, hey, this is the complete list. We're not adding to it anymore. Steve, I think we're at that point. We have to be. Because we are adding more things. And I know there's some definitely wants, desires, et cetera, but we need a list and that's the list and then it's done. And the chief, if chief was here, I'd say that to chief. So Mike is here and he's gonna relay that to chief. And I would say that to chief as well. We need a list.
text, not in person.
Let's review the list and there we go.
I have no issue with that.
So. Yeah, so then, say just finalize change order 6 per that, and you can send it to Justin.
Yes.
This list needs to be updated for the next meeting. Our next meeting is before Christmas. Will we have all the pricing done by then? December 11th.
I would hope so. But we still gotta get some design done and then we gotta get it to the contractor. So. I will mandate that we need to have those prices in the first week of December, because we need to look at it too before we present it to you. So there's a number of different steps.
Steve, remind us of the schedule, like. I know there's some things that are gonna come back in the spring to finish, but the contractor's not gonna stay mobilized all winter, is he? Or is he?
No, that, you know, that
So like,
factors into this. Eventually their super will be gone.
yeah, so
The
like
next
when is that date now? Like what, you know, like when are they done doing things?
Well, based on the update that they gave today, I mean, they're definitely into the second week of December. And they're pushing to get all cold weather related things done. Cause you know, paving, concrete, sidewalks, plazas and so forth. There's still a fair amount of work to do. They're getting themselves out of the ground with drainage and underground electric. They're gonna bring in the monument sign, so. Right, we pushed them to try and get all the landscaping done and be 100% by the end of this year, but it's not doable for the fact that they're not ready to put in landscaping on the east side, and it's out of the planting season, but everything else should be done.
You didn't mention any major problems so far on there that would eat further into this contingency, so is it safe to say that there's likely not at this moment?
I've reduced, the contingency has gone up because I've reduced my conservative estimate of, you know, we didn't hit any unknown asbestos. We've only hit 9 cubic yards of ledge that, you know, they've still got a little bit more work to do, but I think we're out of the woods as far as, worrying about, worrying about, you know, hitting big blocks of ledge and they'd be out there, you know, with the whole round for days and days.
Again, this is the worst case. So there's actually more contingency. than this.
There is, I mean,
Still kept a little bit of buffer.
But
I
that's
still,
seven-
I haven't zeroed out
Yeah.
my,
But that 723 is current.
that's
Current projected.
the current projected.
Current worst case projection.
Yeah. And then like I said, I'm still carrying some money for change orders in case we hit something odd. I mean, again, I'm hoping by the next meeting, I'll be able to wipe out some more of my placeholder.
So summary, the contractor's expecting to be done in December by the end of the year, aside from landscaping, which will be a comeback in the spring.
And if
So
we did,
so it's November.
Yeah.
So in order for the contractor to be done, we have a list of things that we haven't voted on. What does that mean? We have a list of things that may or may not get done, but if they're done in December, we don't meet again until the middle of December.
Yeah, will they still be there to do it?
Well, generally speaking, as much as they don't necessarily want to, they'll come back and do work.
So the
After the
price,
fact.
the pricing won't change.
I'm not asking them if it's gonna change. That just opens the door.
Um,
We need to have a meeting before the 11th.
we could, but I mean, it all depends when we get on the numbers.
Yeah.
What day did the station?
Because the week before the 11th was the week of the 2nd, and that's the week right after Thanksgiving.
Right.
Because I was looking at that.
I would imagine the price is not getting finalized. So. The 11th.
I mean, if it was.
I would leave it.
so if we didn't have any other change orders, they don't hit anything else while we're out there, how much would we have left in the total project?
Right, I was just gonna ask, what is the actual remaining contingency right now? Less PCO number 6.
Soft cost, construction and owners contingency.
Do you have that?
So 1.2, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's why under the line, you know, what I'm carrying for the remaining
Oh, so if
contingency
you
is
had-
723.
You had the 723 and the
We had the
483.
482,
So it's like 1.3.
about 1.3, yeah,
1.3 million.
it's not good.
On top of less than 1%. Change orders.
I mean, so to build a 26,000 square foot building for $21 million, Total project cost,
It's 20,
Spend
20.
approximately $200,000 for change orders. I mean, you're a structural engineer. You're a structural engineer, you're a geotechnical, you're an architect. I mean, that's something where, you know, I would just, my only 2 cents worth is somebody coming back, you know, because I totally understand what you're saying, but, you know, somebody coming back and saying, you're coming to us a year later and wanting to change something in the building to, you know, put it on a fire station budget. Like, why didn't you just do this when the contractor was there? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
We still have to remember that we are on this committee to protect the taxpayers' money.
No,
We're good advocates for the taxpayer.
Right, I get it. So, but, you
So are
know,
we.
so,
I mean,
yeah.
That's
I
our,
mean, we kind of take this
Charge
pretty
also.
seriously too, right? That's why you're looking at less than 1% change orders. It's just, it's kind of like like, for instance, you have a school project that was just talked about the other night, right? It's the same conversation. You know, if you do it now, it's gonna cost X amount of dollars. If you wait a year, it's X plus. If you wait 2 years, it's X plus plus. And if you do this kind of stuff now, it's all under warranty. You know,
I think there's a balance.
there is a
getting
balance.
what's needed and spending it just because you have it to spend.
Totally understand.
And we're also paying interest on this when I don't believe we pay interest on budgeted items. Like if they included the budget, right? So if we spend $100,000 on this, it's gonna cost more than $100,000 in the budget because we're paying interest on this. And we can't negate that if we're, again, trying to protect the taxpayers.
Sure. That's it. Well, I get it. I'm just, like, I'm kind of trying to give you all angles so that when somebody does come back, it was thought about, it was discussed, and this is the decisions we made.
I think, yeah, we all agree the project's in great shape. I think that's a credit to everybody here. We want to make sure the project ends in good shape. I think to make any decision, we just need the whole list.
Right.
And then we can go through the list. So nobody's saying like, hey, we shouldn't spend this money if it's a good idea. But I think it's just, we need all the
So
information.
there are a couple of things that we're gonna need an answer to, so maybe you don't have to have a meeting, because they're not gonna add up to $10,000. One of which is gonna be that catch basin on the east side of the property. Like, we've got to get Mitch to come up with that sketch, and
I like the sand idea.
yeah, well,
we're trying to simplify.
we're trying to simplify it, you know.
Sounds good to me.
Because we don't wanna take the time to order a structure, actually.
Yeah.
Right.
But if
We
we,
can swale it into the basin, then
Right.
it solves a lot of problems.
right, so if we can get that solution to work that we discussed today at the meeting, then that's one thing, but there will be some cost to that, so that's gonna have to get approved. And then, it's not up there, but there are just a couple of other things on that we'll probably just need to give Kevin a call and see if we can get that done. Because it is.
Yeah, you talking about the security cameras?
Right, so it's the door. Yeah, the door modification at
Oh, yeah,
the
that's,
SCBA washer.
yeah.
Like, once that price comes in, we can't get the equipment in the door. So one way was to cut out the CMU, but we found a much less expensive way that we could just modify the frame. And so they're pricing that up. You know, the shop's cabinet is definitely something that they need to do. It's a furniture and equipment item. It was always part of the furniture and equipment item. We haven't spent the whole 300,000.
But that's something we're buying.
Yeah,
That's not
that's something
anything-
you're buying,
It's an owner purchase. It
An owner
gets
purchase.
delivered.
but it needs to get,
But
Also,
I know-
it's not required. The building can function without a sharps cabinet.
Well, I'm also saying like, that's not something that you're saying, call Justin and I and get it approved, like, there's no time constraint getting that installed. The
so,
owner's buying it and putting it in.
correct, so the town.
Like, I understand the drainage stuff and the door,
Right.
but
I mean, the shop's cabinet is something that it's been in the fire station. People bring these things to the fire station and dispose of
I'm
it.
not saying it's not necessary. Ron.
Oh,
I'm just saying that, like,
I thought that's.
I thought
what
we're-
said it wasn't needed. No.
So,
Sorry.
no, I'm saying rhetorically, we're not sitting.
It's
here
not gonna
saying
hold up the occupancy permit.
What,
Yeah.
I thought what you were reading is a list that Justin and I are gonna have to approve outside of a meeting. And what I'm saying is that's not an item that
Right.
needs to be in there.
Right, it needs to be fastened to the floor, but anyway, do that.
So number one,
Right.
Yeah, one and.
I don't know about number 3. I mean, I don't know about the
It
metal.
doesn't really matter. The list isn't gonna exceed your already approved limit. If it does, maybe we just have to meet real quick, have a conversation.
Yeah.
What I don't want to happen, and I think this is part of it, like, I mean, if you look at this list, I don't think, what's our exceed 50, right?
Yes.
It's not gonna go to 50, so I don't want to piecemeal this because
Yeah.
here we could all just, we could approve
Then
this list and.
then all of a sudden we get to the next meeting, we're like, well,
Exactly,
the list is done.
yeah, so I want to focus on the things that actually matter, that are gonna make a difference. So one makes sense, the catch basin makes sense, obviously,
Those
right?
have to get done.
If needed.
Yeah, if needed, so
But again, I
everything
don't,
else, it's.
I'm not even sure if we need to go through the list because it's not gonna add up to over 50,000 anyway. So, but if you guys come with something. you
Well,
say
I would
needs
just
be
like to
done
know
now,
which ones I'm gonna get. You're gonna call
Exactly,
it.
yeah.
If you want, I could speak to shops container, like, right, it's a free program, it doesn't cost the town a nickel. I don't know how we came up with it, but we have a company that comes in and takes these shops for free. So people come in and they put all their shops in a box, we accept it, blah, blah, blah. I'm just thinking, if we get rid of this and we say we're not accepting shops anymore, who knows where they're gonna end up? They could end up in trash barrels, Dunkin' Donuts, they could end up in playgrounds. So the shops thing is a huge, and we're busy. A lot of people are dropping their needles on it to us.
Nobody said yet that the sharps aren't in. I think we're just saying, just need the whole list.
Yeah.
We just go through the whole list.
And I think the murals are, like, it was always intended to do the murals. You know, it's not something we put in the design because again, that was a,
We don't need to go through the list again. I
When-
mean, we're arguing principle here, so there's no reason to go back through the list.
so I'm just saying that's gonna be something that's gonna cost money. So if it's not interested in it, then we won't waste the time of the design team or the.
But we voted last week to get prices for all of these lists because we thought they were important enough to get prices for. it.
Okay. Yeah, fair.
When we get the new list, instead of doing it by number of, like, 78, 79, can we group them by code required and not code required? So we can clearly see what is actually needed and what that costs compared to everything else and what that costs.
It's just, to that point, I don't think there's anything on that list that's code required.
Right.
Aside from
Yeah.
maybe the color of the outlets.
Yeah.
Right. But yes, if there are things that would be good to have them broken out that way.
It sounds like 1 in 10 with my telephone call. And maybe the campers, right? Just said 7.
And no more work without approval.
Well, that's on the contract.
Right.
They're doing it at their risk if they're doing it. That's fine. We made our point clear.
Is that it for OPM?
That is it.
Still way to go.
Anything else you want to bring up?
We had a discussion of schedule review related landscaping, but I think we already talked about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion items from anyone? No. Okay. Action items, we had PCO as an action item, but it sounds like that's not needed. Doesn't need a committee vote, it's small enough. So then the only other action item is approval of meeting. Review the minutes from October 9th, 2024, and had no comments, so I would ask for a motion to.
I did have one comment.
You did.
I did,
What
yes.
did I miss?
It's, I may have said it,
Please raise.
I don't know, but on page 1 of 3, where it says Castagna application for payment status, it should be August of 2024, not September.
Press.
I may have said it wrong.
Resignation effective immediately.
I'll fall on the sword for that one. I may have said it wrong, but
So how do we?
And now it's on,
Just. put
How do
the
we go
amendment in the motion to.
as amended.
yeah,
Motion to approve amended that changes to August of 2024. Yes.
So moved.
so second.
Aye.
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 Let me see.
So before we adjourn, we didn't say it before, thanks.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It's been great. It's been a great
The
process.
PCO discussion aside.
You're not, you know, every job,
I
it's
think-
no different.
I think anyone, who has done building products, that Aaron's point, I mean, to be 1% is amazing.
Yeah.
Less so. Yeah. Less than 1%, even better.
Yeah. Maybe.
Well, the contractor, you know, Steve and his team and the contractor had a lot to do with that.
They do. I
I
mean,
mean,
it,
everybody did.
it was
such
a great
job.
job. We could have had a much worse general contractor.
There are
And
a
we
lot
did.
of things that they just made go away. That on a regular low bid general contractor, 149 building in Massachusetts would not have gone away. And that includes their team too. Their subcontractors were
Right.
very good to work with.
Motion to adjourn.
Right? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Right? Thank you. Everybody in December.